I want to take a moment today to make a quick video. As I've said in the past, I am the first person to tear something apart if I think I have been wronged, or it doesn't have to mean I've actually been wrong. It just means I have to think I have been. And I'm one, like I say, I'm one of the first people to speak up when I feel like something's happened I don't like, or someone did something wrong to me. But like I say, to even it out, I always like to be a person that says something good if I think someone did something the right way, whether they did or not, as long as I perceive it as the right thing. Some of you might know I recently had an issue with Wholesale Sports, one of our local stores. And I've had issues with them before. A lot of people in our area have had issues with them. And today I actually finally got contacted by one of their representatives from Canada. And he and I had a very long talk. Now, his name was Bruce something, Nival Bolt, or I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name. We'll just say Bruce N. You know how those Canadian names are. It's probably like Scandinavian for moose knuckle or something. So like I say, we'll just call him Bruce. And he and I had a very long conversation today, and it actually went pretty well. Now, it started off, very polite, very formal, blah, blah, blah. And then it got down to the bare tactics of, he thinks they're right, I think I'm right. He says, well, we can back up our side of the story. I said, well, I can back up my side of the story to enough of the benefit of the doubt that you were still wrong in the way you treated me, even if I exaggerated my story, for entertainment's sake, still doesn't change the way things happened or the outcome of what happened. And he kind of agreed with that. And we discussed a lot of the things that it's hard about running a business like they run. And we did discuss that, they're already fighting a preconceived notion, since they are a Canadian store that bought out an American store, that, they don't like guns, and they treat us bad because they don't want to sell guns anyway. And he's like, well, that's totally not true. That, where they're at in Ontario, they're very pro-gun. They're actually, they are much closer to the blue states in America than they are the red states in America as far as gun rights go. And I agree with that completely, because I know a lot of Canadians, and I have a lot of Canadians that come in my forum and post pro-gun stuff all the time, and how they wish their laws were different. So I can't fault him on that. And we also discussed, how would I do things differently if I was in charge, and what would I change? And, and I said, well, other than educating the gun counter staff to a certain degree, and he even had a counter for that. He's like, we understand that once a gun's been safety checked, we're within our rights legally and liability-wise to allow people to manipulate the guns how they want. But they've gotten so many complaints by anti-gun people, or people that just didn't want to be around guns before. And and I understand that kind of puts them between a rock and a hard place. They got to try to keep their customers happy while keeping their customers happy. And I would have to say, if I probably had to say from a business standpoint, there's probably a lot more people that come in there to buy sleeping bags and fishing rods than come in there to buy guns. So they have to look at it from that standpoint too. But like I said, the gun section is in a very specific section of the store. If someone goes into that section, you really can't put too much weight on someone complaining that there's gun handling going on in the gun section of the store, and he agreed with that also. But to be fair and honest, in the past, people on here know I've made videos that tell people, even if it's your right to open carry, don't do it in a way just to be a jerk and just to provoke people. Try to do it in a way that you don't draw negative attention to gun rights. And as we were talking, I kind of started thinking, that's kind of hypocritical of me to say, don't do negative things towards gun rights here in our country, in our personal lives, but then just tell a store, well, I don't care if other people do complain. You better just do what I think is best for guns. And I have to understand maybe they have to be in a position where they have to do what's best for gun rights too, and best for them to be able to continue to keep selling guns. Because I would be willing to bet there's probably some stockholders that would rather they not sell guns. Because let's face it, guns aren't the hugest profit margin in their store, and not the easiest to manage, and not the easiest to sell, and not the easiest to be knowledgeable of. So it's probably as much of a headache as it is as a profitability thing there. So I kind of give him that on that. That it might have been a little hypocritical of me to think that I want full, just act like what's best for pro-gun people in their situation, whereas many times in my own private life I say, let's reel it back a little bit just for the sake of public relations. Now, one thing I will add about this guy, of course he was a professional schmoozer. It was obvious in the way he dealt with me and the way he talked to me. He said things like, I'm a leader on the forums, people make their decisions based on things I say, people pay attention to me, I can affect their sales, and blah, blah, blah. Just basic, generic, ego-stroking, kiss-ass, lowest common denominator kind of, lowest common denominator type of stroking people's egos. And as we all know, that kind of stuff works great with me. So, so he knew exactly what he was doing. He knew how to get results out of me. Because, if nothing else, I'm not in this for money or fame or anything else. I'm just in it to be made to feel important. So, kudos to him for that, because he knew exactly what he was doing there. I mean, like I said, this guy, like I said, he is a professional schmoozer. I'm sure he's like one of their faces for their representation with the public and everything. I mean, he was really good. He was really nice. He was very polite, very friendly. I mean, very much so. I mean, that's at one point I thought he might even invite me back to his apartment to look at his etchings, but that never happened. Now, one thing he did do specifically when he was in this Schmooze Fest, and I'm not saying Schmooze Fest in a bad way because I like Schmooze Fest, but one thing he did do is he did point out, he said he even mentioned to his legal manager, his legal people and his managers there that, I protected myself quite well in the way I do things. I present my stuff as entertainment, I take artistic license with things, I basically, I cover my supple, ample backside pretty well when I do things, And he acknowledged that. Now, I'll give him credit for acknowledging I did that. Now, he could have taken it a little further and acknowledged my supple, ample backside, but he didn't do that. But, he did acknowledge that I covered myself, and that was a good starting point for our conversation. In the end, we came to where we were pretty much just trading anecdotes and stories we talked for a long time. And we came down to the basic point of the call was, he didn't want me to have this perception of the store. He doesn't want other people to have this perception of the store. And he did what should have been done from the beginning. And, it might have even been done from the beginning. Because, I will admit that when I'm angry, my ears shut down and my mouth starts working. So the store manager might have said the same things at that time. But he did it in an environment that wasn't very conducive. He should have taken me aside, said it himself, not said it with employees that were involved in it surrounding me. That was a big negative on his part. You don't allow your employees to gang up on a customer. So if he ever sees this video, learn from that mistake. If someone else is involved, I've had many customers I've had to talk to about my employees. I take my customers aside, talk to my customer, and then I talk to my employee later. The employee is presumed guilty until I speak to them later. That's just how business works. So, like I say, it may have happened then, but it didn't happen in the proper way, so I didn't acknowledge it. But at the end, this Bruce guy, what his whole point was, we want this to end pleasantly. We want this to end in a way that you don't feel like you've been treated wrong. We feel like we're treating our customers right. And his words to me exactly were, what do we have to do to make this good? And, I was like, I've made it clear to you I don't want anything. I don't want a gift certificate. I don't want money. I don't want store credit. I don't want nothing. I just wanted the situation addressed. And the very fact he went over me with what process they'd gone through since I started did the video and first made the post. And for those of you that aren't involved in the local forum, I made the post on a local forum. It got a little bit of attention. It got a couple of posts. It didn't get anything. But then some sock puppets started coming in and saying nasty things to me, which made the thread just blow up and got all kinds of negative attention for the store. So I know some people went in with good intentions trying to defend their store, and they just ended up just blowing up in their face. And he and I talked about that too. But in the end, he said what I needed to hear. He said, what do we have to do to fix this? We're already fighting this preconceived notion that we're these bad Canadians, and we know the situation exists. We know other people are having this problem. We know it's happening. We see it on forums. We see it in the internet, and we're trying to combat it. And, and I told him, I said, in the end, that's all I want to hear is that you're acknowledging it and you're trying to fix it. Like I say, I've had problem with local stores, and then I've gone back in later, and they have tried to fix their issues, and that's great. That's all anyone can ask. So, although I still stand my ground about how the way I was treated was bad, the way it was dealt with by local management was bad, the way they followed up on it is very positive. And like I said, that's all you can really hope for from a business, is that they're listening to you. And the very fact that he called their director of marketing, and he called one of their business managers, and their business manager called him, and they all had a conference call. The fact that they're doing this stuff, that shows they took it seriously. They just didn't say, oh, it's just some nut job on the internet, it's just going to get a couple of views and then it's going to fade away, which is what would have happened. I mean, let's face it, if I'd have posted that and posted my video, they get a lot of views first day, and then they taper off to a few views a day, maybe. So if they hadn't addressed it, would have never went any further, so they didn't have to address it, but they did, and I give them credit for that.